you made £1 billion, but your standard is to make £100 billion. So you're not happy even though you have £1 billion. But other people are looking at you like, oh my God, Rosie, you have £1 billion. They're like, oh no, I only have £1 billion.
For me personally, like retrospectively, I think it's made me grow as a person.
It's like a limit, like I'll never go there.
I'm an only child, so like, yeah, no one that looks like me. And, you know, I do have it and I do know what I'm doing. Like, I am competent enough to get where I want to be. So I'm proud of myself for that, and I'm really glad that I've had them in my life to get me there. My mental health went really bad in sixth form. It got to a point where I had to actually have counselling for it, and that was something really hard for me. To do that at competition law, for example. I like pensions law, which is really niche, but I just find like employment law quite interesting as well. If I am lucky enough to secure a training contract, then it will be doing the S2E1 and the S2E2, which is like the official qualifying exam to become a solicitor, and kind of explore my options with firms and then go from there, and then hopefully it will all fall into place somehow.
What's one thing they can take away from Rosie?
Do not let yeah, you were frozen as well. I don't know if it's my end because like the connection here is really bad, but
oh, okay. Yeah. Are you on campus?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, it's always like that with university Wi-Fi. Yes, guys, welcome back to a brand new episode on the Jerry Exclusive Podcast. Today, I'm very happy to introduce my new guest. She's not only a law student, but she's a very inspirational individual. She's a leader. She has so many experiences that she's gone through, and I'm very sure that we're going to have an amazing conversation today, and you guys are going to learn so much. So before we start, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like before we get straight into it. How are you doing, Rosie?
I'm doing really well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How is uni and like, you know, the first 3 months of uni, how is it going?
It's been very hectic. I think like coming in, like I think with law in particular, they've kind of thrown us in the deep end. So the amount of like reading and amount of like essays and tutorials that I've had to like do, especially like in the past couple of weeks, has been insane. But I'm really loving the content, and I've met some amazing people here as well. So I'm definitely glad that I did choose Durham.
Nice. Did you have any other, like, obviously you don't have to say this because you're already at Durham, but did you have any other alternatives that you were thinking of before Durham?
Yeah, so I looked at York, and I really liked York in general. Like the problem-based learning that they had there was something that made me put it as an insurance. So that was something I was looking at. And I think something when I was picking universities was like the history behind the towns, because you want to make sure there's quite a lot there to do. So that's why I also looked at Nottingham as well, and Exeter. I also did look at Oxford, but I did get rejected. But I think for me personally, like retrospectively, I think it's made me grow as a person. And I think that Durham has actually been a better choice for me in terms of like opportunities for years abroad, because if I was to have gone to like Oxford, I would have had to have done like law with a language instead of just kind of doing like law with a year abroad. So I think it has all worked out for me.
Nice. It sounds like you've got a lot coming up, like, you know, next few years at uni, and that's very exciting. We're going to get into all of that, but before we start, we have a quick little icebreaker that we do on this podcast. It's just never have I ever. I'm assuming you played that before, right?
Yeah.
Nice. So I'm just gonna throw out a couple of questions, and you know, you just say I have or I haven't. But we usually use cards on this episode, but like I've been very lazy, I haven't been able to bring the cards. So what we do, instead of saying I have or haven't, you just put a thumbs up if you have, and then thumbs down if you haven't. So that's it. And we're just gonna jump straight into the questions. First question is, never have I ever used someone else's toothbrush. Even mistakenly, you haven't.
No, no, never. Like, I'm always 100% sure, like, even at home, like, because me and my mum have like a very similar toothbrush, I
Yeah,
always try and make sure it's distinct. So I always like get a little marker and I like draw something on it because I'm like, that's just so unhygienic for me. Like, I could
yeah,
never do that.
yeah. I know it's like a limit. Like I'll never go there. I mean, there's been times where like I got slightly confused about whose toothbrush is whose, and I just throw it all in the bin. I just get new toothbrushes because I'm like, I'm not risking it at all having someone else's toothbrush. But yeah, that's nice to know you having new someone else's toothbrush. Second question: Never have I ever fallen asleep in public. Yeah, yeah. I mean, train counts, right? Like, the train is,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So that was kind of an easy question. But yeah. All right. Third question. Never have I ever crashed a wedding.
I've only been to like one wedding in my life and I was 5. So I haven't been to any to be able to crash.
Yeah, yeah. How would I even look like just walking in and just saying, "Everyone stop"?
No, that's just so embarrassing. You could
Yeah,
never do that.
yeah. Just wait till the wedding is over to like do whatever you want to do. It's just like it's too extra if you do that. So yeah, I haven't either. Uh, Never have I ever climbed out of a window.
Oh, have I? I think I have. I've
What
got like
window?
recollection. I think it was actually like a window in my house. I think it
Oh,
was like in the summer once. Like I wanted to quickly get out and do something, or like call my dad for dinner because he like can't hear because our shed's
yeah.
like quite far up our garden, and we were like in such a rush because we had to go somewhere. And I was like, actually, I'm just going to jump out the window. Like I can't even be bothered, but it was fine because it wasn't like too far down. So
Yeah. That sounded funny the way you said it. I just jump out the window. Now, mine was, it wasn't even jumping out of the window because I don't know why I did it, but this was during the start of my YouTube channel. And I guess I just like wanted to do something that was like clickbaity and like have everyone be like shocked about it. So I took a picture of my legs like just dangling off the wall of my house from the window. And I said, "Oh, I almost jumped." And then I put like I photoshopped it with like a building, like you know how you're sitting on the top of a building. I photoshopped it with like a skyline of the ground, so to make it seem like I was jumping off a building. But yeah, that's why I climbed out the window. But I'm never like I've climbed into the window of my house because I lost my keys, but that's the only one. But yeah, uh, last question. Never have I ever gone 24 hours without showering. Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
I'm not proud of it, but when I was younger, I didn't care about anything that didn't involve sleeping, playing football, or like watching TV. Like I just didn't care. Like I literally hated eating. My parents had to force me to eat. So like I rarely shower. So yeah, I'm not proud of it, but you know, everyone happens. But I'm guessing it was similar for you as well. When you were younger, you just didn't really care that much. Yeah, yeah. Well, that was a great round of Never Have I Ever. I feel like I need to come up with some better questions. Like some of the questions were like, "Never have I ever slept in public." That's a bit easy, but that was a good round. Before going into the next segment of the podcast, we're gonna take a quick 2-minute break, and then we're gonna be right back. Come on, let me close. Come on, closer. Don't let me shine. Let me shine. If you guys want to win up to £200 worth of Amazon gift cards, then you need to listen to this quickly. I just need you to do 2 steps. Click that link, check out the free preview copy of my unreleased book, read the copy, and then go back to the website, then leave some feedback on how you thought the book was. That's all you have to do, guys. It's going to take you no more than 2 minutes. So don't tell anyone, because like I said, it's a secret. I don't want everyone winning £200 because, you know, I'm gonna go broke. So just keep it on a hush, do that for me, and it's gonna be great. I felt like I had seen you before, like maybe in like a previous schooling experience or like work experience or like event. Like I don't know, are you based in London?
no, I'm from Kent.
Oh, it's definitely not you then. It's definitely not you. Do you have any like sisters based in London?
No, I'm an only child, so like yeah, no one that looks like me.
Okay, okay, okay. Nice. Nah, there has to be someone. You know what? Forget it. Anyways, I want to talk a bit about your educational background in terms of just like obviously you're in Durham, which is a top uni, but I kind of want to, go back into the past a little bit and see how you elevated to that position from like all the way to primary school, anything that you can remember from not just primary school, but high school, sixth form, college, whatever, and just the experiences that shaped you into the student that you are, into the person that you are, and any sort of memorable thing that you think has really inspired you or turned you into the person that you are.
All right. So, obviously, primary school, I can't remember too much, but from what I remember in terms of like my academics, was that I was quite like an interested and curious person. Like, I always try to find out like the smallest things, like in subjects, like, oh, why is this? Or, how does this work? And I think that's something that shaped me kind of from the onset in terms of trying my hardest. And like, I mean, I can't lie, I wasn't very good at maths. Like, and that was something that did show in primary school, and even some parts of English I wasn't very good at. And I think when I like used to get like my like marks back or like anything that I did, and if I didn't get a lot of it right, I'd obviously be really upset. And what I always tried to do was I tried to always like I went to the teacher and I'd be like, oh, like I don't really understand what went wrong. And like I remember, I think it was in like year 5, like my teacher was like, oh, if you go away and like read this book or whatever, and you can like talk about it or whatever it might be, then I'll like boost your grade. And even that was like in year 5, so I was kind of really on it, and I was so determined. I'd come home every night and I'd try and like read a couple pages to try and get through it by the end of the week. And then by the end of the week I was able to get through it, and then I brought it back to the teacher, and he was like, this just shows like how determined of a person you are, like you are gonna like flourish wherever you go. So it kind of, I think it made me realize how much hard work is important to get where you want to be. And obviously then when I progressed in secondary school, I think I found it harder because like in primary school, like your parents like can try and help you a bit because it's like basic maths, but my parents like they don't even have any GCSEs. Like they're not very like academic people. So I found that in secondary school I had to really work for it. If I didn't understand anything, like a lot of my friends, they could easily like go to their parents, and their parents would have some sort of like knowledge on it or could give them some help. But for me, that just wasn't an option. So going through it, and I think especially even from year 7, like I would always go above and beyond for like projects. And I'd like, if the teacher said, oh, I mean, it was an RE actually, we had to like, we're doing Buddhism, and we had to like create our own God. And I remember at one point, like it was just kind of, create a presentation, but I like created a presentation and I made like a whole figure and like actual like drawing of it. And the same in history, like I was really into history, and we were making Motte and Bailey castles, and it was either a presentation or an actual like construction of one. And I did both because I was like, I've really wanted to like be at the top of my game and
Yeah.
show the teachers that I was like, committed. And I think even as I progress, like, especially with COVID, because I think for everyone, COVID was like a massive setback. And for me, it was weird being at home and not being able to like interact with the teachers and ask them for help. And I think moving forward from that, I realized how important, engaging with your teachers were. So I always made sure when I was in school, because, you didn't know when you were or weren't going to be in, I always gave them like essay plans, and I'd give them like, I remember I gave my RE teacher, oh no, my sociology teacher, she was my RE teacher. I gave her like 30 essay plans in year 11, and she emailed my mum and she was like, is she actually getting some sleep? Like, because this is just insane. I mean, I was
Yeah.
getting sleep, but for me, because I really loved my subjects, I think it really pushed me to do well.
Yeah.
And even in A levels, I think self-teaching was a big aspect of my A levels. I didn't have any teachers for a lot of my subjects. It was a lot of disruption. I remember like my dad, he always says to me, like, at the end of the day, Rosie, I don't care like what you want to be when you're older, as long as you're happy. And as long as you try your best and your hardest, that's all we ask of you. Like, I know some parents of like friends were always like, you need to get like an A star. And like, if you don't, then, you're not going to have a future. You're not going to do well. But like, my parents always biggest inspirations for me, because they always worked as hard as they could with the little things that they had to make sure that I had what I needed to be able to succeed, even if they couldn't actually academically help me. They'd be able to like provide me with them wise words. And I think that really pushed me in like my year 13, especially, where I was having to like do everything myself and not have any guidance from anyone. And
Mhm.
it pushed me knowing that actually my end goal, which is obviously right now, it is in sight if I just, keep pushing. And, I do have it and I do know what I'm doing. Like, I am competent enough to
Yeah.
get where I want to be. So I'm proud of myself for that. And I'm really glad that I've had them in my life to get me there.
As you should, as you should. That's an amazing story. Like, there's just so much support from that, from primary school, going out of your way to be like, miss or sir, can you give me a book to read? I'll come back to you. I'll do this. All of the different things, the projects that you were working on, the independence at such a young age. Like, I don't think I ever studied in primary school. So like to hear you doing that, that's insane at such a young age, like 7, 8, 9. Not many people do that, and it shows from where you've got to, the hard work and the grades that you've got. You got what was it, all nines and eights in year 11? Yeah, that's really impressive. Just your track record is amazing, and yeah, going to Durham as well, doing great in your A levels as well. And also, I'm guessing there were some setbacks as well. Obviously, your parents did a great job of like inspiring you and pushing you. But were there any sort of setbacks at certain moments that made you think like, oh man, why is this happening?
I think in terms of setbacks, obviously, this first of all, the self-teaching was a big problem. And I think that really made me think, oh, I'm just kind of screwed, because I felt like if I didn't have a teacher, I haven't really got much hope. And then they'd say they'd get a teacher and then they never did. And I think also like kind of on like a mental side of it, I think my mental health went really bad in sixth form in so many ways. And it got to a point where I had to actually have counselling for it. And that was something really hard for me, because it meant I had to actually give up my time of revising to actually go and sit with someone and talk about what was going on. And everything kind of stemmed from the stress that I was feeling with exams. And I think for me personally, like, the counselling did help me realise actually I am smart, because I think even though, you might see my LinkedIn and, you might think, oh my God, this girl's got it all like set out and everything. Like inside, I literally lack so much confidence. And for me personally, having that opportunity to kind of sit with someone and then tell them everything that I was feeling and being like, oh, I don't think I can sit the exams in June. Like, I just don't feel prepared at all. And the guy was like, you do know what you're doing. You just kind of need to like, don't overwork yourself and don't try and burn out, because that was something that I was doing. And I think that made me realize actually, I do know what I'm doing. Like, I just need to take it one step at a time. And I think through doing that, that really motivated me further. Actually, I've come all this way. There's no point me just giving up now and, surrendering to all this issues that were happening. I need to just keep moving forward, and I can look back on this moment and actually think, you know what, you went through so much, but yet you still was able to do it.
Yeah.
And that is an achievement to be proud of. So I think, yeah, that definitely has pushed me forward.
Yeah, amazing. It's interesting you talk about like how you weren't very happy internally, even though outside it's seen that way. And I feel like that really touches upon the this thing of, you always hear people like successful people talk about how like, oh, I'm so driven out in the outside world. I'm so happy. I have all these things, but deep down it's like the standards that I have for myself are kind of different from the standards that people have for me. Like, for example, let's say you're like a billionaire or something. You made £1 billion, but your standard is to make £100 billion. So you're not happy even though you have £1 billion. But other people are looking at you like, oh my God, Rosie, you have £1 billion. But you're like, oh no, I only have £1 billion. Like, would you say that's something that maybe you had, not that you're ungrateful, but would you say you're like a really high achiever who's just like never sort of satisfied or complacent?
Yeah, I think definitely I am a high achiever. I think for me, I always want to make sure I can perform at my best. And I think because I know what I'm capable of, then if I was to do below that, then I would get really upset. So like even in year 12, like when I did my first like assessments, if you like, and I think on a couple of them I got a B. And for me, I was like, even though it was my first assessment, I felt so like ashamed of myself. Like I didn't like talk to anyone. Like I just kind of, I think that made me want to try even harder. And I think it got to a point where I was actually just burning out because of it, because I was like, oh, I'm a B standard. I need to like get myself up to an A or an A star.
Yeah.
And I think even I've had that since like, even when I was in primary school, I think I've always felt that, you know, I need to be on my A game. And I think it is also for me personally, I didn't want to let my teachers down, because I formed like really good relationships with my teachers,
Yeah.
and they always knew me as, you know, the girl who always tried their hardest and like, you know, always wanted to do really well. So I was always worried if I got a really bad grade, like that was it, they'd hate me for it. And I
Yeah.
think that made me want to be a high achiever, even though they wouldn't like, you know, come for me and like be like really angry at me. I
Yeah.
think inside it was like I set them standards for myself, even if my friends, you know, were happy with what they got. And for me, if I got that, I would be personally upset. But
Yeah.
that's not because I thought they did really bad, obviously, because it's all subjective, really, isn't it? It's like what you personally, you know, expect of yourself, not what you kind of expect of other people.
Yeah, yeah. And I want to touch up a little bit on COVID and how you sort of navigated that experience. Like from what I've heard, you said, you know, you weren't feeling the most happy inside. You weren't feeling the most, you know, confident or satisfied inside. How did you sort of navigate out of that to find a way? I know counseling helped you as well, but was there anything that maybe you did for yourself? Maybe you started like meditating or whatever, something that you did.
Well, I actually got into like weightlifting in the gym. So that was something like big for me. And I still like I do that now at uni as well. So I found that like during COVID, like the at-home workouts, they really helped me kind of distract myself from like all the work that I had to do and all the essays and deadlines. And it gave me like a space to kind of relax in a sense. And I also found like listening to music, like I love my music even now.
Yeah.
And that kind of helped me kind of, I think, distract myself and kind of detach from like everything that's going on around me. And I like reading as well. Reading something as well that, you know, you kind of go into a different reality and you don't really think about actually what's going on in like the real world. So I felt like I kind of structured my COVID days, if you like.
Yeah.
So I had, you know, a couple hours of work, and then I'd, you know, have a break, and I'd, you know, do my workouts with my mom, and then, you know, I'd carry on, do a bit more work, and then I would, you know, chill in the evening. Because I think a lot of people feel like, you know, to do well, you have to work like to insane hours in the night. But I can guarantee you, I have never worked beyond like 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
And I've still like done well, because I feel like if I was to work really late into the night, I mean, I'm more of an early bird anyway, so I don't think I could really do night work because I just can't focus.
Yeah.
But I think if you work too hard into the night, you just don't think straight, and you're not going to get the sleep you need to be able to achieve either. And especially in COVID, where there's so much stress and anxiety at the time about, oh, what's going to happen. I think that was, you know, it was needed, like, you know, a lot more self-care than maybe what was needed when it wasn't COVID.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. What I'm hearing is you took more control of your life basically. You were like, you know what, I'm gonna start lifting, you know, I'm gonna start doing this, taking care of myself, planning my time, managing my time, making sure I don't work too late into the night. And like I don't understand what it is with like people that are around our age. We love to sleep past like 3 a.m., 2 a.m. Like I don't think there's one of my friends who who go to bed before like 12, maybe one or two, but most of them are always up to like 2 a.m., 3 a.m. And I'm like, just go to sleep. They're like, no, I can't. I'm scrolling on TikTok or whatever. But like, I'm really proud to hear that, you know, you took your sort of your sleep routine seriously. And like, do you still go to the gym regularly, or do you work out
Yeah,
from
so
home? Oh,
yeah, I
okay.
do all the gym and stuff. Yeah, so yeah.
Nice. Does your mom go with you as well?
No, she's like fallen off of that now. Like, I mean, she does a lot of walking, but she's not really a gym girl. But
Yeah, yeah.
I've made loads of friends in the gym anyway, so I think I do like it for that social aspect too.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's very progressive. Like everyone's cheering you on, everyone's there to like help you. Like there's times where I would be like doing a set bench press set, and like I'm struggling, I'm about to fail, and then someone just comes out of nowhere like, oh, I got you, bro. And it's, it's really nice just to have people around you who are just always looking out for you and stuff in like a safe environment. But I want to talk a bit about like your transition to Durham, like in terms of obviously you got the grades to get in, you're doing law. I want to, sort of delve into how exactly that whole application process was, because for a lot of people it's very strenuous. It's like all over the place. You're applying for uni while you're preparing for A levels, so it's very stressful. And like, whatever test you did, so kind of just run us down through like how was the process like for you leading up to that.
Yeah, no. So, see, I think I started my UCAS application like just a bit before the summer, or like going into year 13. Because I did like 13 drafts. I mean, that was an insane amount, but it was because I kind of messed it up and I wanted to change it, and I realised I wasn't very happy. But with law in particular, and for like Durham and a lot of other universities, you have to do the LNAT. Which is a test that I will never want to take again in my life because it was the worst thing ever. I started prepping for it quite early, and I think that was a big mistake for me because there's very limited resources online to be able to actually like practice the LNAT. So I found I was doing like the one they have on the official website about 20 times, but in my mind I'm actually remembering what the answers were, and so I wasn't actually really thinking about what I was doing. But that LNAT, that's about a 2 hour exam. It's like about 40 multiple choice questions, and then a choice of like 4 essay questions, and you pick one to do. It is very time consuming and it is very strenuous. I mean, I think it is kind of, I mean, it depends on the uni, but like obviously different unis weight it differently. Like, I was really worried when I was doing it. Oh, like, is the multiple choice going to be prioritized over the essay? Because I felt I was stronger on my essay than I was multiple choice, and that was what the case was. And then after you've done kind of like the LNAT, it then gets sent off, and then obviously you have to put all your other UCAS data on as well. So like, I'd say if you've definitely got like accentuating circumstances, definitely put them on, because you could get a contextual grade offer. So for me, my grade offer went from A star AA to 2 A's and a B. Which is also kind of based on your like postcode as well. So it's definitely worth like making sure you put on everything, and also making sure that your teacher reference is good, which is why, being good and being a good student and sucking up to your teachers and just like being the perfect student that you can possibly be is so important as well. Because obviously I remember when I read like mine, and like because we were told to see, because they put in like your circumstances in there, and I was like nearly in tears because it was just so lovely, like what my teacher wrote about me. And I think that does help because it actually shows you as a well-rounded individual why you would succeed in that subject and in such like a high performing university. And then I think I waited like 2 months, and then I got my offer like at the start of January, which was really nice. And then I think you have like a couple months to like accept what ones you want to, your firm or your conditional offer. But it wasn't too bad. Luckily, there wasn't like an interview or anything like that. So, but obviously the LNAT is something that people really need to obviously prepare for. But yeah.
100%. I like that you started studying early though. That tells a lot about like your time management and preparation. I feel like a lot of people would leave it up to like the deadline and then start panicking like, oh my god, where can I get resources? Where can I get resources? Like I like that you scheduled your time. Like would you say you get any of your sort of your discipline or motivation or hardworking attributes from someone around you, maybe a mentor or your parents?
I think definitely my parents. I think they're very organized with what they do, especially my mum. She's always been someone who likes to know when everything's going on, and when I first started trying to like properly organize my time back during COVID, like, she'd actually kind of sit with me and be like, okay, it's fine. If you just break this task down into like 4 different tasks, then it will all be okay, and then you'll get through it. And I think even that's brought on with me into uni. Like, for example, I've had loads of tutorials to prepare for, like for next week, and I've broken it down and done little bits over the past couple of weeks so that you're not cramming it all. And it means that I've also been able to have a lot more of a break as well. So that's something that I think I've gotten from my mum and from my dad in terms of like discipline as well.
Nice. And how do you balance up your, obviously you're a very driven individual from what I can hear. I feel like I'm not gonna say similar to me because we're different people, but for me when I wake up, it's like the first thing on my mind is like, how am I gonna get better? Like, how am I gonna, improve in life? How am I gonna improve my YouTube channel? And I'm guessing to some extent, it's the same for you. First thing when you wake up, you're like, how do I move forward? How do I do this? I'm guessing my question is like, how do you balance up that driven mentality with like social life and with like the other parts of uni?
I think I've treated like my uni work as a 9 to 5, because I think like, if you were to work any longer, you just burn out. And I mean, I've met some people here and they do not have a social life and they do law. And I'm thinking like, because I think especially if you are aiming at, for me, for example, I'm hoping to like, apply to secure training contracts in the future. And it's not just about your academics, it's also about, are you actually a person, your personality, the things that you enjoy doing. So I always find like me and my friends at uni, we always have like movie nights, or we go and play in the JCR, like some games or whatever. And I always make sure that's like done in the evening. So like after my dinner, I'm just chilling for the evening. And in the morning, I'm either gymming or I'm having a bit of breakfast, because I think having that sort of like schedule of 9 to 5 instead of kind of sporadically doing bits of work during the day, it means you can't really get that routine and that kind of solid structure.
Yeah.
So I think for me, it is important that I get a work-life balance, like for my mental health especially. And I think it has actually worked since being here. Like sometimes I do feel guilty and be like, oh, I should be working right now. But actually, when I look back at it, I'm like, I'm doing the work. I've got enough time. Like it's chill. Like don't even stress about it, even though like loads of people here stress about their work a lot, which is understandable. But for me, I just try and take a really chilled approach, because I know when I was in sixth form, I used to be very serious about everything. And I think I wished I socialised a lot more in sixth form than maybe what I did. So I'm trying to bring that lesson forward into uni.
Yeah. I like that about just like after I finish my work, I just chill in the evening, like have dinner or whatever, and just prepare to go to bed. What do you do in like your chill time? Do you watch movies at home, or like YouTube videos or Instagram videos, or what?
In my chill time, so I either obviously go to the gym, but that's normally a morning thing. But in the evenings, me and my flatmates, we tend to like, play pool or table tennis, or I like to watch movies. At the moment, I'm watching I'm a Celebrity. That's a big thing for me. So that's something I've been doing. I like catching up with my family. So staying in touch with a lot of my family and friends back home is really important to me. So I always make sure that I make an effort to FaceTime a couple people during the week, just to see how they're getting on, and they can ask how I'm getting on, that sort of thing. And also listening to music, and I've been reading a couple books as well. So yeah, it's good.
Nice. That sounds like a really wholesome sort of complete experience that you're having. Obviously you have your driven side, your discipline, your hard work, your 9 to 5 as you call it, but at the same time, it's great that you're keeping in touch with your social life and stuff like that. How did you pick law? Like I know you've always liked reading and stuff like that, but I feel like law is a really like niche area. Obviously there are different parts of law, but I feel like I know your parents, not your parents, but parents in general say, I want my child to be a doctor, lawyer, whatever. But apart from that, why did you want to pick law?
I think there's kind of a few reasons why I picked it. I think when I've been doing, like, for example, during my A levels and even my GCSEs, like, for example, in sociology, we learned a lot about like crime and we looked at different laws. And then in like my A levels, in politics in particular, we've done a lot of like constitutional things, which is like a module that I do at Durham. And I've always found that kind of interesting, I think, because I like politics, but I wouldn't necessarily do a straight politics degree. And neither would I do a straight economics degree or a sociology degree. Whereas I feel like law incorporates everything into one. And I've always liked writing essays and, looking at different debates and kind of having different opinions on different things and being curious as to why people think different things. And I think in law, you kind of get the best of both worlds with that. You kind of, a lot of the reading I've been doing, I've been critiquing what people have been saying and looking at different debates and like having my own opinion on it, and I find that quite fun.
Yeah.
So I think that's something that kind of really wanted me to do law.
Yeah, yeah. I remember in year 7 and 8, we used to have a debating club, and I used to debate so much, just not because of like the art of debating, but back then it was just because I wanted to argue about something. I just loved arguing. I just love going back and forth. Just I don't know why, but it's nice to hear that you love, seeing different viewpoints and evaluating them, sort of critiquing them and stuff like that. And I'm guessing with law, in terms of like when you go out into the commercial world, there's a lot of speaking and interacting and public speaking. Would you say you're like a strong public speaker?
I would say I am. I mean, obviously, I'm probably not the best out there, but I do like to chat with people. I do like to socialize and network, and I like to, be able to spread awareness about certain things. So I try and use my LinkedIn for that as well. Um, and yeah, so yeah, and I'm a brokerage young leader as well. So I'm actually starting to learn a bit more about how to improve my public speaking. And we did an exercise a couple of weeks back, and I think that's really changed my perspective on how I can kind of convey my viewpoints. And
Yeah,
it's not all about always being like the confident person. It's just the way you communicate it. And I think also doing law, to be honest, I think really helps. Like in my tutorials, there's like 6 or 8 of us, and you've kind of got to be bold to be able to just say what you think, even if it's wrong, in front of a person who's done years of like experience in that field and with
yeah.
people that you don't know. And I think law does help me kind of gain those skills and develop them over time. So I'm looking forward to seeing, maybe comparing what I'm like now, maybe in like 3 years' time when I finish.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like what you said, speaking to someone who has so much experience, I feel like for me as well, it can be just daunting sometimes at uni, like not just in classes but in lectures as well. When the lecturer is like, does anyone have any questions? And it's like 300 students, and you burningly have a question inside, but you're like, oh, I don't know if I'll put my hand
Yeah.
up. There's so many other people. I'm kind of shy and stuff like that. So I feel like uni as a whole, like just going through experiences like that and conquering them, sort of builds up your confidence and just builds up your sort of expands your comfort zone. Like apart from public speaking and law, would you say there's like any other aspects of like your life that your comfort zone has sort of been widened by joining uni?
I think probably communication, and even I think time management. Even though I've been quite good at managing my time, when you get to university, it's a whole like new field of time management. Like, I mean, the amount of emails that I get, and there's a lot more independence and responsibility to find out when your lectures are, when your tutorials are, what work you've got to do to prep for them. And I think university has shown me that I can do a lot more than maybe what I thought I could do coming here. And even like the smallest things like booking a GP appointment, like I haven't really done that before. And like being able to do that here, and just like the general sort of like uni life that you kind of experience, and
Yeah,
you just feel more like an adult. And I think university really prepares you for like the wider world, being able to, a lot of like applications, for example, for different internships and open days and things like that. Although I've had experience in the past of doing them, obviously writing them as a university student is much different, because you've got to obviously sell yourself in terms of, you're at this amazing institution. What have you got to offer? What makes you unique?
mhm.
But yeah, definitely. I think they're really key.
Yeah, yeah, amazing. You mentioned as well you're a brokerage young leader. I kind of wanna sort of understand how you got into that, and how you finding that, and sort of the characteristics and experiences of like the roles that you have to do.
Yeah, no. So the brokerage is essentially like a social mobility charity to try to get young people into the corporate world. And I attended in March an event that they hosted with Hogan Lovells, and they had some young leaders actually speaking about their experiences. And they were like, if you're interested, you can apply to be in the next year's cohort. So I was like, this sounds really cool. Like, the master classes, they get to build various traits that for me will be really beneficial in my future career and just being at university in general. So I applied. I did like a video where I was like just saying kind of what I would gain out of it, and if I could do anything to like change and impact young people, what would it be? And then after that, I just, I applied using that format, and then I was just lucky enough that I got the opportunity to do it with some amazing people, and we've had amazing speakers externally that have come and, told us a bit about how to, enhance our skills, our soft skills in particular, and have been really inspirational to kind of push forward and be motivated, and to not kind of have imposter syndrome, because I feel like that's really easy to feel, especially at university, and especially like when you're applying for jobs. You might not feel like you're good enough, but it has definitely made me feel like, as a person and as an individual, I do have a lot of ability to be able to get where I want to be if I put my mind to it. And we also have like a mentoring system, so I think it's like based on people who used to be a young leader. So Michaela, she is my mentor, and she kind of helps us go through, for example, public speaking, and how to brand yourself in a positive light. And we've had like little individual calls with her in smaller groups to be able to kind of reflect on it and to ask questions. And she's a real inspiration because she's done so much off the back of being a young leader, and she's definitely inspired me as well. So, but hopefully in a couple months, once I've been able to kind of gain my kind of next level skills, if you like, once I've done these workshops, I might be able to host my own workshop, which I'm at the moment looking into doing. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens with that.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely, hope the best for you in that regard. I want to see you hosting bunch of workshops. I want to see you on LinkedIn posting a bunch of stuff about that. But you've also been, a part of different other organizations, which we're going to talk a bit about after the break. So don't go anywhere. We're going to be right back soon. If you are someone who is particularly interested in spirituality, then this is for you. But if not, then that's perfectly fine. Keep watching the video. If you want to get and learn more about spirituality products, then I have a limited offer for you. This is an amazing way for you to afford cheap spirituality products, and all you have to do is follow these 3 steps. Firstly, you have to follow this account on Pinterest. Second, you have to click the link in the bio. Third, choose whatever spirituality product you want, and you can buy it for a discounted price. Make sure you do this promptly, because like I said, this is a limited time offer. Welcome back to the podcast. We are having a great time. If you're having a great time as well, make sure you go down there, subscribe and like as well. But yeah, Rosie, we were just talking about the different platforms that you've been involved in. You've been your brokerage young leader. You've also been a mentee for Zero Gravity. I've heard of Zero Gravity before, but I don't really know what it does. So could you just enlighten us a little bit on like how the role is and how the experience was for you?
Yeah, no, so Zero Gravity is essentially like a social mobility charity to try to help people who are from disadvantaged backgrounds navigate university. So as a mentee, you're paired with someone who goes to a university that is in your options that you're thinking of and does your subject, and it involves weekly calls with them to try and help, for example, build your personal statement, go through admissions tests, any interviews, and also as you progress further onto it, you do like A-level help. So if they did some of your A-levels, they could give you a bit of advice or support with that. So I had my mentor Kate, and she was amazing. Like, she spent so much time going through my personal statement and helping me change it so that I could fit within the character count, because that was something that I really struggled with, and making sure that it flowed. And then we did a lot of revision for the LNAT, and especially like the multiple choice, because that was something that I wasn't that good at compared to the essays. So that was really good as well. And from doing that, I'm actually a scholar with them now. So I've been given an opportunity to basically be part of their scholar network, which means that I can get access to, as well as financial support for university, I also get access to a range of different masterclasses and my own career mentor, which I'm in the process of being paired with at the moment, which will mean that someone from the commercial law field hopefully will be able to mentor me and provide me with guidance as I try to navigate, applications going forward. Yeah. And I've actually put myself up to be a mentor to try to give back to the community and try and help someone hopefully next year that's going through the university application process, and give them as much help as I can. So, yeah.
Man, I love that. I feel like there's a pattern. I feel like you love, social mobility sort of initiatives. Is there anyone that inspired you to go towards that, or you just really love, helping people who are disadvantaged?
I think for me personally, like within my family, knowing the sort of background that I came from and knowing how hard it is to, get connections and get opportunities, everything that I've been able to get, I've always been really grateful for. And I'm always open and willing and keen to like give back to other people because I know how hard it is, when you don't know people within the professions that you want to go into. And, when you want to go to university and your parents, don't know what they're doing, they don't know my parents still don't even know like how the university application process works, even though I, always been on about it. So being able to have people there that know how you're feeling and they've been in a similar situation as you is always great. And for me, that's why I'm very passionate about social mobility, because I know that especially in my area, like no one really knows about like LinkedIn or like work experience, and I'm trying to like advocate for that and try and make sure that in the future there's much more awareness that there are opportunities, because the thing is that there is loads that people can claim for and get out there and are eligible for, but like no one actually is told about them,
Yeah.
which I think is really sad. Because like for example, the Clifford Chance work experience that I've done, if I hadn't like researched about legal work experience and known about that, or like because my school didn't tell me anything about that, then I wouldn't probably be in the situation that I am today.
Yeah.
So I'm just always grateful and trying to give forward.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned as well, like your parents don't understand the university process that well. Like that's the same for most parents. My parents, they don't even know what I'm doing at uni sometimes. Like they're like, what course are you studying again? Like, a lot of my parents and my relatives just don't know. So there's a certain extent of like individuality or independence that you have to take upon yourself to sort of do these things by yourself, which is normal. And like, that starts from a relatively young age. When was the like maybe the youngest age that you realized that you just you didn't have to rely on like outside sources or your parents to guide you anymore?
I think probably when I was like maybe 14 or 15, when like I think I had like a maths problem or something like that. And in the past, like my parents could, try and help me with like, addition or subtraction. But when it got to like, oh, I can't remember, like, all the algebra and everything like that and Pythagoras, and I gave it to them and they were like, sorry, Rosie, I literally have no clue what this is. Like, this is just like a random diagram to me. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'm going to have to like, be more proactive and try to find online sources and try and speak to my teachers about it, because like my parents would have no clue. And even when like I was practicing for like applications and interviews for like different work experiences that I have done, like when I've said to my parents, oh, can you review this? They're like, well, I can review it for you, but I'm not going to be able to tell you that I understand it or know whether you're doing it right. So then I
Mhm.
kind of thought, oh, so I'm kind of not on my own in this, but obviously there's no one at home that can kind of relate to what I want to do.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's similar for me. Like in primary school, like my dad used to help me with maths a lot. And like obviously it's primary school maths, so it's relatively easy. And he would just help me with all my assignments and I'll do really well. But I realized when I got to high school, it was just different stuff. Like you said, the Pythagoras and all of that. And my parents were just out of the question. Like I can't even ask them. They're just gonna get it wrong or they just don't know what they're doing. Same for sixth form as well. Like when it gets to integration and stuff like that, it's just a different ball game. So I had to like use more websites and resources and stuff like that. Were there any sort of specific websites, like online resources that you felt like helped you a lot?
I think definitely Econ Plus Style. He's amazing for economics. Like, I think especially where I was self-teaching myself, a lot of his resources just helped me revise in general and actually understand what I was doing. Like, because it was all very logical, and he had a lot of like revision, like Zoom calls that he did near the run up to exams. So, like for example, I had never touched a paper three economics paper in my life, and the first paper that I actually did was my actual A level. So when he did his own session on that, it really reassured me that I did know what I was doing and actually that I could do it. Like, because it's just the format's very different than like paper one and two, like what I found anyway.
Yeah.
So for him to have done that was just, godsend. And then when I was in GCSE, Maths Genie, I think that's what his name is.
Yeah.
But Maths Genie, and there's another one I had flashcards for, but I can't even remember.
Physics and maths,
It's
yeah.
like Yeah, physics and maths tutor. Yeah,
Yeah,
physics
yeah,
and maths tutor. Yeah, that one.
yeah.
Yeah, that were really good as well. They had so many like revision notes and things, and yeah, so definitely them as well. They helped.
Yeah, yeah. The physics and maths was a lifesaver for me as well. Maths Genie, I touched on a little bit. And like, I don't know if you did physics. Do you ever use physics online?
I've never heard of that. Yeah, no, I've never
Mhm.
heard of that.
Yeah, that's a physics one. I actually had him on a podcast before, but Econ Plus
Oh my
Dow,
God, that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah. Econ Plus Dow though, he's a lifesaver. Like I did economics as well, and just his videos. Like apparently, I didn't watch all of his videos leading up to the final exams, but apparently, like those last minute videos that he did were so similar to the actual exams that they were like
They were.
spot on and they helped so much. I'm actually regretting that I didn't watch them from start to end, but yeah, he's such a lifesaver. I would love for him to be like on the podcast one day. Like
Oh my
I,
God, you
I
should try
don't
and get him on here.
100%, 100%. Like I'm trying to get as many sort of academic supporters and leaders and stuff like that, like the physics online guy, Econ Plus that I feel like would be a great addition. But yeah, it's great that you had all these different, sources of help and stuff like that to help you in your different studies. But obviously when you moved on to uni, you didn't really need all of that anymore because you weren't doing economics anymore. Like how is that feeling like when you get to uni and you're like, oh man, I can just focus on law now. I can just do this. No more maths, no more that. Because I feel like for me, it was sort of bittersweet a little bit. Because yeah, you're focusing on just one thing now, but it's like, oh man, all those other subjects, there was some stuff about them that I still liked. Like, how was that experience like for you?
I think I'm very similar actually because I do love like just being able to focus on one subject, and there is some like degree of overlap with some of my modules, but then like a lot of my A levels also overlapped, and I did really love the content I was doing in them. So I guess there is like I'm still grieving over it, not being able to do that anymore. But I think at the same time I'm like really happy about what I'm currently doing because I actually find it really interesting.
Yeah,
But I think it is weird because like you'd normally be used to like at school like, oh, I've got this subject, then I've got this subject, then I've got this subject. But now it's like, oh, you've got one subject, and it's like, oh, this type of like law or that type of law, and it's like sometimes it can get a bit confusing. And also like where the timetable, like for me anyway, like today I have nothing going on. Like I have no lectures at all or anything like that.
yeah,
And so like my routine's very staggered. Like at school I'd be used to having like 4 subjects a day. Whereas now it's like I have nothing going on.
yeah,
Like it's very kind of sporadic in how they've like laid it out.
yeah.
But then I do like it at the same time because it gives me time to like do my own work and things. But
Yeah, yeah, and I know it can be strange sometimes. You go from a busy day full of work, full of lectures, full of that, to just nothing. And like sometimes, I don't know if you feel this, but like sometimes I feel like I'm being lazy if I have a rest day. Like, do you ever sort of beat on yourself like, oh, I'm supposed to be working now, I'm supposed to be doing something, but I'm not. Like, how do you manage that?
I do feel like most of the time, I can't lie, like even if I'm just like having an hour break or whatever, like I'll be like, no, I should be working right now. Like, what are you doing, Rosie? But then I kind of think like at the end of the day, like, you're not a machine. You can't be working like, 3, 4 hours straight. Like that's just not possible.
Yeah,
And if you have that break, then you're more likely to go back to it in a more productive way. Whereas like maybe if you just carried on straight, you just kind of be trying to rush it to get it all done because you're just so tired. And I just make sure that I keep drinking and eating and things because I feel like you need food to kind of power your brain and like actually give you the energy. And like, for me, I get very weak really easily.
yeah,
So if I get really weak, I can't even do my work because I just feel so dead.
yeah,
So I always make sure that I have like frequent snacks during the day, and like I eat little and often
yeah,
rather than like massive meals at like breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
yeah.
Which I think does help, especially if you've got like reading to do, because like the reading could take you an hour to read like 100 pages, and like I'm just not cut out for that, like to do in one go.
Yeah, yeah, like you have to break it down, definitely. And about the weakness as well, that's I can relate with that so much. I had a period of time, I had a phase where I had been listening to this guy or this girl on social media. He was preaching about studying for 6 hours a day. And so I kind of hopped on that trend. And for like 3 months straight, I was studying for 6 hours a day. I'm talking Monday to Monday, every day. And like it got to the point where I'll sit in front of my laptop about to study. 10 minutes in, I'll just be just dozing off all the time. And like every time I'm just so hungry, I just feel so weak. like I used to go to the gym a lot, but my gains in the gym weren't going anywhere. Like I was stuck on the same numbers. Like I'm a person where like I know most boys try to get big, but I try to get strong. Like I don't really care about size. I just care about strength. So like my numbers weren't going anywhere, and I was just weak the whole time. But I realized actually that there's this one superfood. I know a lot of people don't eat it, but kiwis help me a lot. Like, do you have any sort of like go-to snacks that you have to have in your fridge or in your house or anything?
Oh, well, I love protein yogurt. That's my favorite thing. But like for brain food for actual work, dark chocolate, I'm telling you, it works wonders because like during my A levels, before I used to like go back to school to actually sit my exams, I used to have like a couple squares of dark chocolate because I heard that it's good for like your brain and kind of boost your focus, and it does work. I mean, like even when I had like 2 or 3 exams a day, I was feeling so chill. I didn't feel tired. I felt really on it, and I think the chocolate did help. Like, so definitely have dark chocolate. Like, that's
Okay.
something really good.
Okay. Isn't that really bitter though? Because I've tried it and it was like, oh, or maybe
No,
it was a
like I mean,
different one I
I
had.
used to hate. Yeah, no, I used to hate dark chocolate. Like, my mum would buy some and be like, "No, get that away from me." Like, I used to hate it. But then when I heard that it was really good for like your brain, I tried it and I was like, "Oh my God, I really love it." I think it just depends because like some dark chocolate is like 60% dark. Um, so whereas some are like much stronger, it's like 80% dark. Like that is when it's really bitter. So I try and like go for like nearest 50 as possible so that it's not like too strong because
Yeah.
I don't like things that are bitter really.
Yeah. I think the one I had was one the higher ratings you're talking about. I think it was in between 80 and 95%. And I still have it in my cupboard. That's how bitter it was. It's like I had one square and I just never touched it again. And this was like 3 years ago. It's still there in my cupboard, just chilling. But I think what I'm gonna start doing with like dark chocolate, I'm probably gonna blend it in a protein shake or something, like make it sweet. I'll add some honey in it and stuff like that. Because like I'm getting into protein shakes more and more. Before I didn't really want to do it. Just I don't know why I was skeptical, but like I'm probably gonna get more into it. Like, would you say your protein intake per day is like what it should be, or do you feel like you're under consuming protein?
I think I probably overconsume. I can't lie.
Mm.
Like I'll have like my protein yogurts, I tend to have like 2 of them a day, and that's like 20 grams each. And then I tend to make sure that I'm having like some form of chicken. I normally like have beans. I have these my protein.
Yeah.
I have like these wafers and they're so nice. And I always make sure I have one of them. And so yeah, I always feel like whenever I track like what how much protein I'm taking in, it always comes up saying, "Oh, like you've exceeded the limit,"
Oh
and that I
wow.
actually like I take protein and I do like carbs or fat.
Wow. I wish
Yeah,
that was me. Wow. That's actually I've never heard of like anyone saying that they consume more protein. For me, it's the opposite. I consume of carbs, but like half or like 60%, 70% of the protein that I should be consuming. I'm guessing you're jacked then. Like you must go hard in the gym. You must be lifting everything. How long have you been going to the gym for?
I've been going like properly for 2 years. So yeah, like after my GCSEs, I started doing it in the summer,
Okay.
and yeah, I've never turned back. I've loved it. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely love going to the gym. Every time I have a guest who goes to the gym, I'm like, oh, I want to learn all about that. But we are going to learn a little bit more about your experiences from the gym to academic right after the break. So, guys, stay with us. We're going to be right back. This is not a myth anymore, guys. Global warming and climate change is right here and it's not going anywhere for quite a long time. If you want to learn more on how to reduce your carbon footprint and how to adopt more eco-friendly practices into your lifestyle, then this is the blog for you. Make sure you follow this blog on Medium. It has tons and tons and tons of engaging blogs that will teach you and explore with you the different ways that you can make your life more sustainable, more eco-friendly, and more green. But also, if you're someone who's interested in finance, then don't go anywhere because this same blog, guys, also focuses on exploring sustainable financial practices. So this is the perfect blend. Not only finance and the money and the assets and the financial industry, but you also have eco-friendliness, sustainability, and how to reduce your carbon footprint. These two go hand in hand. And if you are interested in such topics, then do me a favor, Go to the Medium site right now. You can even download the app and follow the blog page. You can do that quickly. It doesn't take any time at all, but it's going to have a massive impact on teaching you on how to improve your lifestyle and how to have a much more sustainable impact on the planet. Welcome back, everyone. After the break, we were just talking about, your gym experience. You've been going to the gym for 2 years now, which I feel like to the gym generally, maybe you have a different experience, like your friends and stuff that go to the gym. But for me, I usually experience that people that go to the gym in general, they feel better, they feel more energized. I'm guessing that's something that has helped you, not just life, but like your academic life as well and your professional life as well, which is going to the gym, right?
Oh yeah, 100%. I think going to the gym, it's kind of that determination and resilience you get. So you've had like a good session, even if I had a bad session, to be honest, like, you're still happy that you've shown up. And for me, that still makes me happy. And like, I'd go to the gym just before I went to like school. So then like I'd go into school and I'd feel energized. I'd be like, yeah, let's start the day with it. Like I feel like you just have that kind of sense of achievement because you've been so productive, right? That you just feel like, oh, nothing can stop you. Like, sky's the limit sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely. I want to now touch up a little bit on like, because you said you're going or you're aspiring to go into commercial law, right? Yeah, I want to touch up onto like, because there's so many different parts of law. Like, I want to know why exactly did you pick commercial law?
I think for me, commercial law, it kind of combines all my interests in one. So with commercial about kind of, you've got the business world, and I really enjoyed economics at A-level, but it's also kind of looking at the current affairs and the social aspect of it. So I enjoyed politics and sociology, and I tried a few different things out. Local work experience at a conveyancing firm, which is like to do with like housing, land, things like that. And I tried probate and wills, and it just wasn't really for me. Like personally, I just found that quite dry. But then I did like one of the virtual internships that Clifford Chance did on there, like on the Forage, I think it's called. And I realised actually I was really enjoying the tasks that they were getting us to do on things like fintech and looking at advertising regulations. And I thought actually like helping businesses, like, because that's a lot of what commercial lawyers do, is something that I'd be really interested in. So that's kind of pushed me like into trying to get experiences in that area.
Yeah, that's interesting. You mentioned like with commercial law, it sort of blends different parts of so many different industries together. Like for me, I'm interested a bit in banking, and like it's similar to you in the sense that there's so many things that you would have never thought would come into commercial law, but you always bump into like just the most outrageous things. Like in banking, I never thought you would be talking about submarines, but I had a banking work experience where we were talking about submarines and like how they tie into derivatives and like bonds and loans and like just all these different financial operations and like just fast moving market trends that really like something that I'm drawn towards. So like, is there any sort of similarity with law where it's like you found out something that was like so unrelated to law, but then you realize that it was actually very related to law?
I think there's been quite a few things that I think over like different work experiences that I've done. So there's been some where we've like talked about planes and like the aviation industry, and even things like climate change. Like, of course, you have like climate change law, but like I didn't think that like law firms, especially like the top Magic Circle ones in London, would be like doing deals on like ESG and things like that, because you just think, oh, they're just focused on like businesses, like acquiring other businesses. But when you realize actually there's so many like different avenues and different practice areas that you might think actually like that's got no relation to law. Like for example, technology, like become more dominant now. Like law firms are very much like into developing like their AI tools and advising businesses on like fintech. And like for me, I never really thought that was like related to law in the slightest, because I think everyone has like a conception of like law being like, you cannot do this, you can do this, make sure that you're doing it under this regulation and comply. But like there's just so many different avenues and different areas, which I think that interests me, because there's always going to be some development, there's always going to be some sort of change, and it kind of keeps the work exciting and new.
Yeah, definitely. You always want to be in somewhere that's like moving and always changing and always exciting. Like for me in banking, that's really why I love it. Like it's just always changing and stuff. But there's one part of it that I don't really like that much, and it's the meetings. Like I've been in a couple of like bank work experiences where the meetings have just gone on for like 2-3 hours. I actually had a really embarrassing moment where I fell asleep in a meeting with like 20 other people. I'm talking like not even work experience people. These were like executives in a bank, and I was the work experience guy, and I fell asleep, and they were just all looking at me. And thankfully, it was just played off as like a joke and stuff. They didn't take it too seriously. But yeah, for me, it's meetings that may be a little bit too, boring for me. But are there any like things with law that maybe you don't like as much?
I think in terms of like law in general, I'm not in terms of like modules that I'm doing at the moment. I'm not very interested in like contract law and like tort law. I think because it's very like, if you do this or this happens, you have to apply this test. Whereas I like constitutional law and like human rights and stuff, because I think it can be in some ways a bit theoretical, because there's just so many different kind of viewpoints on like how everything should look like in like the UK, and it's very political. But in terms of like commercial law in general, I'm not kind of that interested in like litigation, arbitration, and like kind of going to court for businesses. I
Yeah,
kind of like at competition law, for example. I like pensions law, which is really niche, but I just find like employment law quite interesting as well. But I think the training contract as well, like it gives you the opportunity to explore it. Because I could say that I don't like litigation right now, but if I hopefully can secure a training contract, I might say it's my favourite and I want to qualify into it. But I think kind of like on the outside, it doesn't seem like a bit of me.
yeah, yeah. And just for the people watching who may be, interested in law, could you just like outline for them what litigation is?
Yeah, so like litigation is like just like disputes essentially between different companies. It can be on, I mean, I'm not like an expert on it, but like it's kind of like if one company doesn't agree with like another company, or they want to kind of sue another company on something, or it might be even when it might be something like a competition law related matter, when a company is being sued by like, I don't know, the European Commission or the government, and it's kind of going to court and trying to plead their case.
Yeah,
So you kind of, I guess, if you're interested in like, going to court, but you don't always want to be in court, or you don't want to be a barrister, then I guess that sort of thing is interesting.
yeah. Nice. Well, we're gonna take a quick 30-second break. Do you want to transform your fitness journey? I'm guessing yes. If the answer is yes, then you're in the right place. Make sure you follow this Instagram page for hundreds and hundreds of different workout videos that will take your fitness to the next level, improve your health, and it doesn't even matter what age you are or what fitness level you are. The videos are set for different challenges and different expertise levels. So this is a page for you guys. Don't miss out. Whether it's you want to accomplish a certain fitness goal, or you want to look good for summer, or you want to look good during winter, whatever it is, this fitness page can help you get there. So follow the fitness Instagram page and stay tuned for new updates and new videos. Let's go. I feel like that's a great explanation of what litigation is. And like in maybe not the past, actually very recently, actually, there's been a couple of examples of litigation, like with the Johnny Depp, case and stuff. That was massive. Have you guys done any sort of case studies of real world examples of litigation?
No, we haven't actually, not yet. I think it'll probably become more relevant in my second year, because I think we start to kind of look more into like, for example, criminal, where to see like more kind of well-known cases. But in UK Con, we have done the Miller cases, so kind of against Boris Johnson, like proroguing Parliament, and like, for example, like the whole Rwanda deportation.
Yeah.
So we have covered cases like that in that context, but like nothing like the Johnny Depp case. I mean, it would be really cool if we can cover that, because I wanted to like learn more about the legalities behind that, but I'm not too sure because it wasn't a UK case. But we'll wait and see.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like from the outside looking in, a lot of people might think of law, like for example, maybe contractual law or commercial law, as sort of like you're just reading terms and conditions basically. Like for example, when I was younger, that's how I looked at it. But like obviously hearing from you, there's a lot more intricacies to it and a lot more aspects to it. What would you say is maybe one of the worst sort of outlandish things that people think of law, which isn't actually true?
I think a lot of people think that, like, if you study law or that you are a lawyer, that you don't have a social life at all. You can't make a social life. Because I feel like when everyone, like, when, I see people and I've met people like here and they're like, oh, like, what do you study? And I'm like, oh, I do law. And they're like, oh, you don't have a social life. Like, you're all reading all the time. And then I think, oh no, should I be doing that? Because I don't like, sit in my room and slave away. I mean, I do know people who do that, but like I don't think it's that necessary. And like I've spoken to like second and third years, and they go partying all the time and they have a social life and they spend a lot of time with their friends, and they're like, don't worry too much, like, sometimes they set you too much and you don't need to do all of it, like as long as you understand it. So i think I think people thinking that like law students just kind of sit in their rooms all day and like don't do anything, it's not true. Because like, people might treat their work as a 9 to 5, but like outside that 9 to 5, like, they'll be doing way more things and having a lot more fun, because law is like any other degree really, in the sense that everyone's got loads of work to do. Obviously the nature of the work's very different, that's true, but obviously at the end of the day you're all kind of on the same sort of level of difficulty. So
Mm.
what you guys get up to, like, in other times of the day, it's all going to be very similar. Just because I do law doesn't mean that I'm just kind of sitting in my room on my own, like doing work. Like I do other things other than that, because like realistically, who can sit in their room like for hours and hours on end like doing work? That's just not realistic.
Yeah, yeah. Like sometimes I try to like I literally force myself to get out of like because I have certain spaces where I love to revise, like in my room, I love to revise, and like sometimes in the living room, like certain spots that I have to sit in this spot to revise. But even sometimes I get tired of sitting in those areas, and like I would be writing an essay on the train, and for me that feels more like creative because it's a whole different environment. Would you say you have any sort of like weird habits, weird studying habits that help you, that other people might think are weird, but like for you, they actually help you study better?
Ooh, that's a hard one. I think for me, like the way I study, I mean, not everyone does this, but if I am to study, I'll study with essay plans. Like, I will not go flashcard like heavy. Like, I know a lot of people do that, and like even when I was doing in A levels, people thought, "Oh my god, are you actually crazy?" Like, that's just really weird. Like, why are you doing that? Like, but for me, like just solely revising off essay plans really, really helps me. Um, and also I use like the dictate function, so I don't actually like type a lot. I kind of just speak it. And I find it does help me kind of, get it, it makes it like quicker, like because you're not having to like talk about it. And if I'm reading something like a textbook and I want to make notes, it's just easier me just kind of being able to write in my own words through speaking it, rather than
Yeah,
like typing and then thinking, oh wait, what should I say? I mean, like I don't do it for essays because I can kind of, go on my own tangent with essays, but
yeah,
with like general notes, I'll speak it into my laptop.
yeah. Nice, nice. So what is next steps like for you? Because so you're in first year now, you're studying law. I've heard that with law it's sort of different from other courses in that there's more like a different route you take, and like there's different courses that you have to do. Have you sort of like mapped out what your next steps are?
So I think next steps would be kind of maybe looking if there's any sort of insight schemes or internships or open days for first year. But the main thing will be like vacation schemes and starting to look at them to apply for in second year, to then hopefully if I get on them to like go into like a training contract interview. And
Yeah,
then if I am lucky enough to secure a training contract, then it will be doing the SQE1 and the SQE2, which is like the official qualifying exam to become a solicitor. So that won't be until like 2026, 2027. But I think at the moment it's just me trying to get as much experience and like, enhance my connections and, kind of branch out in the commercial law world and
yeah.
see what's out there and kind of explore my options with firms and then go from there. And then hopefully it will all fall into place somehow.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. I wish you the best for that. I could definitely see you, achieving everything you set yourself up to. From what I've learned from you, you're a very driven person. I feel like, you're just gonna keep going, and the sky's the limit for you. But this is, we're getting to the end of the podcast, and before we sort of wrap up, I wanna ask you if you have any sort of like words of inspiration for the people watching. What's one thing they can take away from Rosie from this podcast?
do not let anyone tell you that you can't do it based on whatever reason, whether it be your background or because you don't know anyone in a certain field or because you don't know anyone who goes to university, anything like that. Or even if you're in like a situation where you feel like everything's kind of crashing down on you, you have no hope to kind of carry on and do what you want to do, just do it. Just keep going. Just know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, that you are going to get where you want to go as long as you put your mind to it and as long as you work, you will reap the rewards because, the sky's the limit, your world's your oyster. You can do it. So, yeah, and just be great. Just keep smiling.
Yeah, that's amazing advice. That's amazing advice, Lucy. I would have loved to ask you so much, but I feel like we've delved into so much right now. And this podcast is probably one of the best podcasts just in terms of the insights and the questions and the answers that we've gotten from you. But thank you so much for your time. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that maybe you want to add, before we close the podcast?
I think one thing I'd just say to people is just make sure you get on LinkedIn. Like, just go on there, connect with people that you're interested in, and for example, that does a subject at a university that you're interested in, or goes in how that works in a field that you're interested in, and just ask questions. Like, the worst that they can do is not reply. Like, just give it a go. It's helped me, and it will help you get opportunities as well. So, and obviously, if you've got any questions, like you can add me on LinkedIn, Rosie Glover, and I'll be like more than happy to answer. But yeah, thank you so much for having me, Jerry.
No worries. It's so nice to have you come on here. I know Durham can be very stressful sometimes, but thank you for obviously giving up your time. And I'll definitely put your LinkedIn link down in the description below. Do you have any other links that you want people to check out, like for any projects or anything that you're involved in?
Not at the moment, but if anything happens, just keep an eye on my LinkedIn and I'll be putting everything on there.
Nice. Well, thank you so much again for your time. I'm going to let you know when the podcast drops, but yeah, just keep an eye out for that. Well, anyways, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye.